picture, kind of a peek through, best look that we can get right now of that meeting going on inside the White House, the Oval Office. On the right, from just a few minutes ago, the arrival of that top North Korean dictator, along with Chief of Staff John Kelly and others. And so as they make their way into the Oval Office there on tape, on the left-hand side, is a whole lot to talk about right now. Like I said, it's been about 20 minutes. We were told that it would be a short meeting. Let's bring in the power panel now. Christian Whiten served as a senior advisor for the Trump State Department. Judy Miller, the Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter, author, and Fox News contributor. Great to have you both here. Kristen, your former work with the State Department. As you look at this, what goes through your mind in terms of what is significant in what we're seeing?
Well, it's significant because of the level and because this is somewhat unprecedented for a North Korean leader to be in the White House. It's important to keep in mind this is just a meeting, it's just a beginning. But all signs point in a good direction, I think, for the summit coming together on the 12th or very soon, and for fulfilling the key thing that Secretary of State Pompeo said yesterday, which is that North Korea appears to be on a path where they're considering a strategic shift, some big change in the way they do business that would make this different than the failed negotiations in the Clinton and Bush administrations.
Judy, how important is the letter that this North Korean top official is said to be carrying to give to the president?
It's all important, Harris. We're going to know, based on what Kim Jong-un has written to President Trump, whether or not North Korea is really serious about what the administration is calling CVID, that is complete or comprehensive, verified, irreversible denuclearization. The Trump administration wants CVID up front. They want a statement of principles and an agreement that this is what North Korea is going to do. The North Koreans, because they're so used to making agreements that they violate, want exactly the opposite. That is a meeting, a handshake, a victory for Kim Jong-un, who's finally met an American president, and then a drawn long process whereby they would be able to renegotiate the terms, not really denuclearize. So we will know from this letter whether or not Donald Trump concludes that Kim Jong-un is serious. A great deal is at stake.
You know, Christian, you said a word, and I don't know if our audience picked up on it. I almost didn't, but it might be critical. You called this the beginning. And I think a lot of people might look at this and say, well, no. Wouldn't that be June 12th if it happens in the summit? You say, no, this is the beginning. This is the first meeting. Why do you call it that?
Well, I think there's been a fundamental shift. I mean, there was this sort of the air of good feeling when Trump accepted the summit, and it looks like it's coming together. And then the North Koreans started jerking us around. They insulted the vice president. They threatened us with nuclear war. And Trump said, all right, see you later, and canceled the summit. And this really is a sign, first, the meetings that took place in Pyongyang. We have an advanced team in Singapore. And now this is not irreversible, but it's a sign, you know, North Korea does want to go forward and potentially is serious and, frankly, has had to lose a little bit of face, having to basically turn around. They're not on their knees, but to come and, again, not beg, but to request a meeting that Trump canceled. So, you know, I think this is, again, pointing in the right direction.
Judy, you know, when you consider what Christian is saying, it's almost like there might be something North Korea maybe hasn't telegraphed out there that they are really hungry for. What would it be that this dictator wants so much?
Well, it could be what this dictator has been promising since he took office, which is some economic prosperity and breathing room for his people. I mean, this is a country in which the dictator could decide that millions of people were literally going to starve to death in order to pursue what it perceived as its national security objectives. Now we have a younger president, a 30-something president, who wants something else, or at least says he wants something else. This is a test of whether or not nuclear weapons are more important to him than the well-being and the economic prosperity of his country.
You know, Christian, also this week, in addition to this top North Korean official meeting with our Secretary of State and now the President of the United States, you had Kim Jong-un meeting with Russian officials. What came out of that you think that we need to know as we take in the history that's being made here potentially?
Well, that is a potentially important thing because Russia has wanted and should develop its far east. It's very unpopulated, most of the Russian population. And Russia does share a small border and a rail line with North Korea. And potentially, if North Korea really did want to make a fundamental shift, wanted to come in from the cold, it could be theoretically an economic partner of Russia in that expansion, which would be a further balance to China. China really is sort of the emerging loser here. The fact that we're talking to North Korea without China necessarily, the fact that, frankly, China probably encouraged North Korea down the wrong path, at which point it insulted the vice president, threatened us with war after Kim met with the Chinese strongman in Dalian earlier last month. They've sort of been pushed aside, and this isn't necessarily to their advantage that we end this problem with North Korea, because then we can focus on the big problem in the Pacific, which is China.
Christian Whiten, Judy Miller, appreciate you along for this breaking news on Outnumbered Overtime today. Thank you very much. We are going to take a very short commercial break because we have no way of knowing when this meeting is going to wrap up. Right now, the only perspective we have is outside the glass of the Oval Office. And we'll continue to report the news as we can. As we learn more, we'll bring it to you. Stay very close. We're coming right back.
As the one who's always trapped beneath the duvet, I'm begging you, take Gas X. Your tossing and turning isn't